Go through the social media and felt a little worse afterward. Maybe you saw a friend post about an exotic vacation or someone else's career milestone, and suddenly you felt like you are not measuring up. You are not alone. In today's video, I want to dive deep into a modern day psychological trap: comparison culture, how it impacts your mental health, and more importantly, how you can break free from it. Social media has now become part of our lives, and we can't run away from that reality. But what we can do is that we can do something about how it impacts us. I know we've all been there where maybe you saw a friend post about an exotic vacation or someone else's career milestone, and suddenly you felt inadequate or you're not measuring up. You scroll through your feed, you see perfectly filtered lives, and suddenly feel like you are not good enough yourself. No, you are not alone. This experience is part of something larger, a phenomenon we call social media comparison culture. Social media has transformed how we interact with each other, but it also has drastically changed how we view ourselves. Social media has created an environment where we constantly compare our real lives to everyone else's scripted reels. And this constant comparison is quietly destroying our self esteem and mental health. Let's talk a little bit about why this is happening. At its core, human beings have always compared themselves to others. It's how we're built. But social media has essentially become a stage where everyone puts their best foot forward. The vacation, the promotions, the perfect relationships, what you're seeing is the most curated, polished version of someone else's life. But because of the way our brains are wired, it's easy to forget that we are only seeing the good part. We subconsciously compare our entire life, the flaws, the struggles, and all of it to someone else's highlights, creating a distorted perception of success and happiness. This phenomenon is a direct result of social comparison theory proposed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954. According to Festinger, we evaluate our own worth and our abilities by comparing ourselves to others. In its natural state, this theory isn't harmful, it's just how we gauge where we stand. But when social media enters the equation, enters the picture, the sheer volume of comparisons that we have to do, combined with the unrealistic portrayals, makes it incredibly toxic. What's even worse is that we are not comparing ourselves to real people anymore, but we are comparing ourselves to filtered, airbrushed versions of people. The gap between what we think we should be and what we actually are widens, which leads to the feeling of inadequacy, low self esteem, and even depression. In the past, this was a survival mechanism. We compared our skills and status with those in our immediate community to determine where we fit, what we needed to improve on, or who to form alliance with. But here's the kicker: social media has taken this natural tendency and amplifies it. So think about it. Before social media, we only compared ourselves with people in our local environment. Maybe it was a neighbor with a nice house or the co-worker who seemed to have it all together. And in those times, we could at least see a bit of the behind the story of those people, even if they try to hide most of it. But today, we're comparing ourselves to millions of people all at once across the globe. And it is the highly curated version of their lives. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper into the psychology of why this constant comparison is so damaging. When you compare yourself to people on social media, you are comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reels, their scripted version. You see the vacations, the achievement, the perfect relationships, but what you don't see is the struggle. And the result of this is a distorted view of reality. Our brain doesn't process the filtered nature of these images. Our brain automatically assumes that the happiness, the success, and the beauty we see are constant for these other people and is not constant for us. These automatically create a sense of inadequacy. We begin to think, why can't I have that? Why is my life not as exciting? And slowly, this leads to diminished self-worth. The impact of social media comparison culture on mental health cannot be overstated. Numerous studies show that heavy social media use is linked to increased rate of anxiety, depression, and lower self-esteem. In fact, the more time you spend scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, the more likely you are to feel dissatisfied with your own life. One of the key psychological mechanisms behind this is called upward comparison. This is when we compare ourselves to people we perceive to be better off than us. On social media, upward comparison happens almost automatically. You see someone who appears to be more successful, more attractive, more charming, happier, and suddenly you feel like you are not measuring up. The problem is that upward comparisons often lead to feelings of inferiority and envy, and over time, these emotions accumulate, making you feel worse about yourself and more disconnected from reality. This is particularly dangerous for younger individuals whose sense of identity and self-worth is just developing. I worked with a young man once who was an incredibly talented graphic designer, but the more time he spent on social media, the more he began to question his abilities. Every time he logged onto Instagram or LinkedIn, he was bombarded with images of other designers working with big names or winning prestigious awards. He began to feel that no matter how hard he worked, he could never measure up, and it affected his self-esteem, his productivity, and eventually even his passion for design. He wasn't seeing the long hours or the failures that these other designers went through. He only saw the polished final product. In our sessions, we worked on rewiring his mindset. So instead of social media as a measuring stick, he learned to focus on his own growth. He learned to define what success meant to him per time. We worked on separating the reality of his life from the curated perfection he saw online. And guess what? His creativity flourished once again. Now let's touch on the neurobiology behind all of this for a moment. Social media triggers a dopamine response in our brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and reward. Each like, comment, or share is a tiny hit of dopamine, which keeps us coming back for more. But here is the dark side. Our brains become addicted to that rush. And when we don't get the likes or the engagement that we expect, it feels like a personal failure. We start equating our self-worth with how much external validation we receive online. This constant cycle of seeking validation, comparing ourselves, and feeling inadequate is exhausting. It drains our mental energy and leaves us feeling more isolated than ever. So what can we do to break free from the social media comparison trap? The first step is awareness. You have to acknowledge that what you're seeing on social media is not the full picture. What you're seeing is a carefully curated moment, not the ups and downs of life. Another powerful tool that I recommend is called digital detoxing. Digital detoxing is about taking regular breaks from social media, whether it's a day, a weekend, or even just a few hours. During this time, you want to focus on connecting with real life. Talk to friends face to face, engage in hobbies that bring you joy, or spend time in nature. Another effective strategy is mindful social media use. Instead of passively scrolling through social media, set an intention before you log in. Ask yourself, why am I using this platform right now? What am I hoping to gain? Use social media as a tool for learning or inspiration, not as a yardstick for your worth. Next, you want to practice is conscious consumption. Set limits on how much time you spend on social media and be intentional about the accounts you follow. Ask yourself, are these people inspiring me or making me feel worse about yourself? Your answer should determine who you follow and who you don't follow. Another concept is to practice gratitude. Focus on what you have, not what you lack. One of the best ways to combat comparison is to cultivate a sense of gratitude for your own life, your unique journey, experience, and skills. When you appreciate where you are, it's easier to stop obsessing over where everyone else is. And when you feel the urge to compare yourself to others, take a moment to reflect on what you are grateful for in your own life. You see, this simple practice can help shift your focus from what you lack to what you already have, fostering a sense of commitment, contentment, and fulfillment in your own life. Lastly, you want to remind yourself that success is not a zero-sum game. Just because someone else is thriving doesn't mean you are failing. There's enough success to go around, and everyone's journey looks different. Focus on your own path, your own goals. Focus on your own definition of success. At the end of the day, social media is a double-edged sword. It has the power to connect us, and at the same time, it has the power to make us feel alone. The key is in how we use it. Don't let the comparison culture take over your self-worth. Breaking free from this cycle of comparison is not easy, but it's essential for protecting your mental health. Remember, you are seeing everyone else's highlight reel, the well-curated version of their life, and not their reality. Your worth isn't measured by likes, followers, or comments. It's measured by who you are when the screen is off. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one.